Hey guys, I'm back with another video and today I'm going to be talking about VDO.Ninja. Now VDO.Ninja is a conferencing application very similar to something like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, but VDO Ninja is a conferencing application with a twist. You can actually use it for production like podcasts, conference calls that you want to actually go ahead and record or live stream. So let's actually get into this video, right? Now, with VDO.Ninja, what's cool about it is that it works really well with OBS Studio, right? So it is actually built, it used to be called OBS.Ninja, and it was built to work with OBS.Studio in a lot of ways. And today I'm going to be demonstrating a few things, right? So really, just talking about Video Ninja for a second, I want to define it the way the developer does. His name is Steve, he's from Canada, and this is how he actually defines Video.Ninja. In its simplest form, VDO.Ninja brings live video from a smartphone, a tablet, or remote computer directly into OBS Studio or other browser-enabled software. VDO.Ninja offers a free web service, but it also available as a customizable and deployable code. So you can actually self-host it. You can actually build your own server and have your own private instance of VDO Ninja. And that's where it is quite different from Zoom or MS Teams. Because you see, software such as Zoom or MS Teams, when you have that call on Zoom or MS Teams, all your video is all on the Zoom or Microsoft servers. And this can be completely self-contained, so you keep all your information private, right? So some have called it a modern Swiss Army knife of audio and video transmission. So really that is the definition that Steve actually has for VDO.Ninja. I'm actually going to get deeper into what VDO Ninja is and what it actually can do, right? So let's actually talk a bit more about VDO Ninja. So today in this video, it's a really basic overview of Video Ninja. This is part of my series that I'm actually doing, and I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to discuss Video Ninja and provide an overview of Video Ninja and what you can actually do with it on the surface, right? The next thing I'm going to get into is Video Ninja and OBS Studio and how Video Ninja can be used in conjunction with OBS Studio. And the third point is I'm going to discuss Video Ninja's partner tools. Video Ninja comes with several other tools that Steve and the community has actually built. And I'm actually going to talk about these tools and give you a bit of an overview of them. Cool, so let's get started. Alright, so when you actually first open up Video.Ninja, all you need to do is actually go to the link called Video.Ninja. And when you first open it up, this is what you'll see. Right, so it looks really basic. It gives you a bit of information on what Video.Ninja is. It tells you that it's 100% free, doesn't require any downloads or personal data collection, and there is no sign-in, right? So you don't have to log in, you don't have to give your email address or create a password or anything like that, right? Now, just like I described before, you bring live video from your smartphone, remote computer, or your friends directly into OBS or other studio software, right? So that's what you can do. It doesn't only work with OBS, it can work with vMix or any other um, live mixing software, right? That's great. And it does use peer-to-peer technology, so it is extremely low latency. And that's one of the things I really like about VDO.Ninja. Extremely low latency, works in your browser, alright? So let's actually have a look at the interface and see what Video Ninja has to offer, right? So let's get into it. So now when you open up the page, this is what you will come across. The main ones are you can create a room, just like a Zoom room, for example. You can add your camera directly into OBS, and I'll demonstrate that shortly. You can remote screen share into OBS. If you've got something on your screen, or you've got something, or someone else maybe remotely, they can actually screen share and you can bring that into OBS. And then you can create a reusable invite. So if you actually invite someone, you can actually create a reusable invite that you can continue using again and again, right? So that's essentially what that is. Alright, so let's actually get deeper into what Video Ninja is and what it can actually do, right? Okay, so now you don't have to do this, but VDO.Ninja, like I mentioned before, it's a Swiss Army knife. It's got a lot of functionality. And on the surface, when you open up the page, this is what it looks like. But you can actually click this little arrow facing down, and here's what you get: a lot more functionality of what VDO.Ninja can actually do. So just to go through these a little bit and really quick, right? So we already discussed creating a room, adding your camera to OBS, adding a microphone to OBS. You can actually just add audio to OBS. Remote screen share, like I mentioned before, you can screen share your own video, or you can have someone else bring in their video into OBS, and that functionality is available, right? So now create a reusable invite. That's really helpful if you're having an ongoing meeting with someone and you need to send them an invite. You don't want to send them a new link all the time, right? So you want to create a reusable invite for that. You can actually stream a media file into OBS. That's really handy. So it can be video, audio, and I think it supports pictures as well, which is great. You can share a website into OBS, which I'll demonstrate shortly. You can run a speed test on your computer or your internet just to make sure that you have the correct speed to be using VDO.Ninja or any other application for sure. It is a speed test for VDO.Ninja specifically, but it will give you general information about your internet speed. Now we're getting in a bit deeper. You have custom mixed layouts. This is a special mixer that's been built just for VDO.Ninja. This is incredible. A multi-stream monitor. You can actually monitor multiple streams. You can do group voice comms. You can do whiteboarding. You have the guides over here, link generators, and so on and so forth. There are quite a few things over here that I haven't actually explored myself, right? Especially with the multi-stream monitor and the whiteboarding, right? So let's actually get right into working with VDO.Ninja and seeing what we can do. Now, just before I really get into using VDO.Ninja, here is their documentation. So if you actually go to docs.VDO.Ninja, you will come up with their documentation, right? Now, this actually explains it. It's quite in depth, and it actually explains what VDO.Ninja actually is and what it actually can do. You can follow the steps over here, getting started, so on and so forth. But I usually don't like looking at documentation directly. I personally like to play with things and learn it myself, right? But if you want to read more information on it, surely have a look at the docs, right? That's great. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to VDO.Ninja. Correct. Now, let's just say on the most basic level of VDO.Ninja, the first thing that we're going to do is create a room. So I'm going to click on create a room, and I'm going to give the room a name. I'm going to call it VDO test 123. That's the name of my room. You can give it a password, so I'm going to give it a password. I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm going to say today 1234, and that's my password, right? That's great. Now, you've got a few options here. You can say the guests can see the director, but not other guests' videos. There's always a kind of use case for that. Personally, I don't actually use it. And the other option is the director will be performing as well and appearing in group scenes. Correct? So that's great. I'm actually not gonna click on these. We're gonna have, so it really depends on your use case over here. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. A lot of times, you'll have a someone running the actual event, and they don't want to actually appear in group scenes. So they are actually called directors, and they're running the event, right? And you can also have guests in the event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it at default. I'm not going to select any of these, and I'm just going to say enter the room's control room as the director, right? So I'm going to go click on that. And when you do that, this is really what you see. This is the director's view of VDO.Ninja. So I'm the one who's created the room, and I'm a director, and this is my view. All right. So as you can see, there are a few options here. There's invite a guest, and there's capture a group scene. Now, invite a guest. That's a handy. That's the actual link that you can send to someone to invite a guest. And capture group scene is when you've got multiple people that join. You can actually capture them and go ahead and do that. So let's actually get started, right? So I want to actually invite my first guest. So all you can do is just click on it, and it automatically gets copied. You don't have to highlight it. You just click on it, and it's copied to your clipboard. Now, I'm going to actually open up a new browser source, and I'm going to paste that link right here, and it's going to ask me for a password, right? And I'm going to punch in the password. Oh, password is incorrect, and I'm going to paste the link again, and I'm going to pop in the password. Today 1234. Okay, and there we go. So now I'm in. I've basically got in. I've put in the correct password, and now I'm right over here. Now I want to join room with a camera, so I'm going to click that one, and I'm going to go ahead and allow while visiting the site. That's completely fine. Now, I'm using my camera in OBS, so it's actually not going to allow me to do that, but we've got other cameras. So there we go. Um, it's automatically selected the OBS virtual camera for me. And as you can see, I've got a few cameras to play with right now. So let's just say the first guest, this is the first guest, and I'm gonna use the OBS virtual camera. Right, and it's got the audio source as well, and as you can see, it's selected my microphone, which is I'm using a headset, and it has selected that microphone, and it's got the audio output destination, which is also sending the audio to my headphones, which is great. And I'm going to go ahead and click start. Now this is our first guest, so the first guest has entered the room. Great, I'm going to just mute him and mute the audio just to make sure that I don't get any feedback. Great. Okay, so that's our first guest, and he's joined the room. Now, if I go back to the control panel, as you can see, you've got the first guest that showed up in the control panel. Now, the control panel in itself is quite handy, and it is quite in-depth, but we're just going to do a basic overview. I'm going to actually show you how we can work using the software with OBS, right? So now the first guest has joined. Great, they've showed up. So this is what the guest will be seeing, and this is what the director sees, right? Great. Now what we're going to do is invite another guest, and I'm going to pretend like I'm another guest right here. I'm going to go ahead. It's going to ask me for the password again. I'm going to pop that password in, today 1234. I'm going to type it again just to make sure that I've got it correct. There we go. All right, so second guest. It's opened up. So let's actually have the second guest join. And I'm going to select a different camera this time. I'm going to select a polypop camera. And the same situation, it's got the audio source, which is a microphone, and you've got your headset as well. I'm going to go ahead, the second guest is going to go ahead and press start. So now, as you can see, we've got, this is the second guest. So the second guest can see the first guest, and this is the first guest who's got the second guest. Right, so great. So you've got the OBS virtual camera, who's the first guest, and they are talking to Polypop Live, which is the second guest, and now the second guest can actually see it, and obviously they see themselves as first. Right, so this is the guest view. Now we can go back to the control panel, and now as you can see, we've got the primary guest, the first guest that joined, and we've got the second guest. So we've got both of them now in the system, in the control panel. So that's great. Perfect. So now that's great. What else can you do with this? So now, as I said before, on a very, very basic level, you can actually bring these guests into OBS. So let's actually take a look at that. And how do we actually achieve that? Great. So now I've got a few displays over here. This is my first display on the left, which you're seeing VDO.Ninja. I've got my second display that's actually got OBS over here, and I've got an extra display just to play with, right? Just if we need to. But let's actually go back to display one. So now what my goal is that I'm going to take VDO.Ninja that you see right now, and I'm going to bring it into OBS, right? Great, so now that we're in OBS, I'm actually going to create a few scenes in OBS in order to bring VDO.Ninja into OBS. Right, so now in OBS, let's just go ahead and create a new scene, and I'm going to call it guest 1 scene. Great. Okay. So there we go. We've got our guest 1 that's been created, and I'm going to create one more scene, and I'm going to call it guest 2 scene. Excellent. So now we've got two guests, guest 1 and guest 2. And I'm also going to create one more scene right here, and I'm going to call this scene group scene. Excellent. So now we've got three scenes. As you can see, we've got guest 1, guest 2, and a group scene. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, VDO.Ninja is all browser based. It is WebRTC, it is extremely low latency, and there are no servers. It's a point-to-point communication, right? Okay. So the way to actually bring the first guest, so like you can see, the first guest is here, and we've got the second guest here. So if I want to bring the first guest into guest number 1 scene in OBS, I need to go to my VDO.Ninja, and all you need to really do, you can actually copy the solo link, just like you copied the invite guest link. You can just click on the solo link and it copies, or you can actually click, drag, and drop it. And that's what I'm going to do. So I've dragged it, and I'm going to go ahead and drop it in right here. And it just tells you there's a message. It says you have dragged a URL into OBS. This will automatically add the link as a source. Continue, and I'm going to say yes. Great. And in a moment, you'll see that my first guest will appear. And they have appeared in OBS. Now, it takes a little bit of time for the resolution to come through, but I'm going to go ahead and click properties on that link and just make sure that it's all correct. Now, we want to make sure that we check control audio via OBS, and we don't want to use a custom frame rate, and that's really it. Press OK, and as soon as you do that, as you can see, a VDO.Ninja audio source came about in my OBS. So you've got one VDO.Ninja audio source, and now the same thing, I'm going to go ahead and select guest 2, and this time, rather than dragging and dropping, I'm going to show you the other way to do it. So all you do is copy the solo link and come back, copy the solo link, and now come back to OBS and add a source to the guest 2 scene. And I'm going to go ahead and add a browser source. I'm going to name it guest 2. Excellent. And now I'm going to paste that link that I copied right over here. I'm going to give it a resolution of 1920 by 1080. It's 1080p. Same thing, I'm going to control audio via OBS, and I'm going to press OK. And now shortly you will see that my guest 2 has appeared. So now we've got guest 1 and we've got guest 2. Now both of them are obviously on separate scenes, so if you're having a conversation between two guests, you can actually switch between the two scenes to be able to mix the two guests. So that's really what we're doing over here. Right now, we've got one more scene that I've created, which is a group scene, which is extremely handy. So I'm going to go back to VDO.Ninja, and as you can see, I've got one guest and the second guest, but I've also got to capture a group scene. So this actually allows me to go ahead and click that, and same style, copies it to clipboard. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my OBS right here and my group scene. I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it just to make it easier. So I actually dragged it over here, and I'm going to drop it down, and I'm going to press OK. And there you go. Within a moment, it's actually going to show up as a group scene. Now, I do want to make sure that I get the audio from my group as well. So once again, go to Properties and make sure you control audio via OBS, and that will allow me to get my audio channel right over here. Great. So that's my group scene. I've got both the guests. I've got guest one right here, and I've got guest two right here. So now I can actually have a a virtual event where I'm interviewing someone, and I've got guest one, and guest one is speaking. Then suddenly I switch to guest two. Great, great, and I take a long shot with both the guests, guest one and guest two, right? So this is really on a basic level. This is how you use VDO.Ninja with OBS Studio. Great. Okay. So now let's do something. Let's actually explore VDO.Ninja a bit more. There is a lot of functionality, and it's impossible to go through all the functionality really in this video. But I'm just going to talk about a few more things just to get you a bit more familiar, right? I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. Now, right over here, as you can see, it's the invite guest. But what you can do is you can customize those invites. So if I click on customize, now we're getting a little bit deeper. You can actually customize those links that you send to the guest. So you can make sure that when the guest joins, you can ask them for a display name. You can show their display names when they actually show up in OBS. Show active speakers. So you know how when you're using Zoom, you get a little box around the active speaker. You can actually do that. So that's a great feature. I'm not going to enable it for now, but that was the description of it. You can show a welcome message. So you can actually create a welcome message saying, "Welcome to the podcast," right? So you can actually do that, and when someone actually joins, they'll receive that message. You can actually enable 1080p 60 video if it's available. Great. Okay. Then there are several other features over here. You can provide virtual backgrounds to your guests, but it does take up. Just make sure there are warning signs over here, and this will take up more CPU. So you do need to have a good computer. The guest needs to have a good computer for you to use this, right? So I'm just going to disable it for now. You can make sure that there are several other features there's some audio features over here. You can display a raise hand button where guests can actually raise their hand. You can use this for like when you have a situation where you got multiple guests and you want to be able to raise hands. You can display their raised hands over there, so on and so forth. So when you actually click on customize, there are several other features that actually show up, right? So that's really great. So now just to do a quick test over here, let's enable the raise hands buttons. I kind of like that. You can stream via server. So when you stream via server, this is really great for when your guests have a not such a powerful computer or your guest is joining from a mobile phone. This is really a good option because it uses a separate mesh card. So now it does go through a server, but still the latency is extremely low, right? But yeah, I'm going to demonstrate that right now. That's really handy. So I'm going to enable that, and then that's really it. So I'm going to go ahead and select those, and I'm going to once again copy this link, and I'm going to make a third guest join. So let's actually go ahead and paste that link here. And once again, they ask for the password. So I'm going to type in the same password, today1234, and I'm going to press OK. And then, like we selected, it's asking for the display name. So I'm going to just say this guest name is John, and I'm going to be like, okay, that's John. John has joined. And then he's going to go ahead and join the room. There we go, Prism Live. Okay. And then the audio is coming through just like it was before, and I'm going to press start. Excellent. So now we have Prism Live who's joined, and it says welcome to the podcast. So now the third guest, his name is John. His name is showed up as well because that's what we selected, and he does see welcome to the podcast. Now he can actually remove that once he's seen it. That's great. And I'm going to go ahead and mute him as well. So now we've got three guests. This is John. Um, this is guest three, guest two, and guest one. Right? So they can all see each other. And like you can see on the control panel, now I've got my third guest that's actually joined. Correct? So that's great. Those are the customized fields that I actually did. I'm going to disable that now. So we've got three guests that have actually joined. And let's go ahead and move to OBS because I do want to show you the group scene. And the group scene is automatically populated with the 3 guests right over here, which is excellent. Correct. So now we've got 3 guests, and then we've got guest 1, guest 2, and guest 3, and obviously the group scene. Let's actually create a new scene over here called guest 3 scene, just to keep some consistency, right? So guest 3 scene, and let's move back to VDO.Ninja, and I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop it right over here. Yes, okay, and shortly you'll have guest 3 join us. Great. So guest 3 has joined. I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to make sure that I enable the audio control in OBS. Excellent. Perfect. So now I've got guest 1, guest 2, and guest 3. And we've got a group scene with all of them. Perfect. Alright, so let's go back to VDO.Ninja and let's talk a little bit more about what else this allows on the surface. Great. Okay. So now just moving from top to bottom, let's look at guest 1. Right now, guest 1, I can actually mute. So since I'm a director, I can mute guest 1 and I can unmute him. And if I do mute guest 1, I'm muting their audio, so they will still show up in in OBS, but their audio will be muted, of course. So you can mute them. You can actually send a message. So right now I can send a message to guest 1. So if I send that message to guest 1, and I send that message, and now guest 1, this is guest 1, and it just displays right up here. So that's a message that if the director wants to talk to the guest, that message will show up for guest 1. It also shows up down right over here. It says the director has sent them a message, says, "Hi, how was your day?" And the director has sent. Now, that message will not be in guest 2. Guest 2 doesn't have that message because I've already sent it to guest 1, and nor does guest 3, right? So only guest 1 has that message, and I can go back to my control panel. So I can send a message and I can close that. That's fine. I can also transfer. I can transfer the guest to another. So if I have another room, let's say I've created another room, I've got like multiple rooms and I'm doing like breakout sessions, I can actually transfer the guest into another room, right? So that's really great for breakout sessions. Now you've got a few options here. So allow the guest to rejoin the transfer room on their own so they can actually rejoin. Guests can arrive into the new room in broadcast mode, and there are a few things that can go quite deep. We're not going to cover that, but just to let you know, there are a few options over here, but we're not going to do that right now. We can solo. So if I solo the guest, then it's only the guest and everyone else gets muted. I can highlight the guest. So this is interesting. If I want to highlight the guest, if I'm not using OBS, if this is just sort of like, a conferencing situation that I'm using, so I can actually highlight the guest right over here. So I say highlight, and now if you have a look at my group scene, this is my group scene. However, we can only see guest 1. Well, we've still got guest 2 and guest 3 in their individual scenes, but in the group scene, it highlights only guest 1. So if I go back here, and if I disable highlight, and if I go back to my group scene in OBS, now you can see that all 3 guests are visible. So really, that's the highlight feature, which is excellent. You can turn their video off. So now if I go back to OBS and my group scene, their video is turned off. However, their video will be turned off as well in the group guest 1 scene. It completely disables their video. So I'm going to turn the video back on, and now as you can see, it is back on. Great. Okay, moving along, there are a few other options you can actually add to a specific scene in OBS. You can blind the guest so the guest doesn't actually see anyone else. There are several other options over here. where you can scene options. This actually relates to OBS a lot, so you can actually add them to scenes, specific scenes that you can enable, and additional controls. This is just wonderful. So there's a lot of things that you can actually do in additional controls. Like for example, you can create a timer. So if I create a timer for the guest, so I can say the guest has maybe a 1 minute timer, and I can say okay. Great. So now we've got the guest has got a timer. It's got a minute. And if I have a look at my guest, oh, there we go. I just needed to, it was hiding. So guest one, as you can see, guest one has a timer because we've actually set a timer for guest one, which is 1 minute. So that's what we've done in the guest. So this is really great if someone is going live and we can give them a countdown, we can actually set a timer for the guest, right? So that's wonderful. Okay, and we can go ahead and disable that timer, and when we do, the timer disappears. Beautiful. Okay. You can actually go ahead and record. So you can go ahead and record their video. So let's say you wanted, separate videos. You want to record their video, but you want to record high quality video. You can record local. So you can actually go ahead and say, I want this video to record, and this will actually record on their computer, which is super handy, right? This is great. You can record in OBS, but then you're limited to the internet. But this allows you to record it directly in on them. So you can actually use the PCM audio format, which is high quality audio, and you can control the recording bitrate that you want to set. It goes all the way to almost 10,000 kbps, which is excellent, right? So you can actually record them and so on and so forth. I actually haven't looked at all of them, all the settings, but another thing that I found really handy is the video settings. Now, let's say I'm the director and my guest is not tech savvy. So you can actually help them by helping to select their camera. So let's say right now we know that our guest is using this OBS virtual camera, right? Excellent. Now let's say the guest wants to select their other camera but doesn't really know how to on their computer. You can actually help them out. So you do get a list of all the cameras that are available for the guest, right? So let's just say I decide that guest needs to have, we want to send, the guest needs to select this camera, and we can go ahead and select that, and we can send a request. So when I've done that, the guest will say, allow the director to change your video device to Prism Live Studio. That's the one we selected, and I say, okay, great. Okay, perfect. So now, as you can see, the guest one, this is guest one, and their camera has changed to Prism Live. So if I go to OBS, you can see that now guest one is now Prism Live, guest two is the Polypop camera, and guest three is again Prism Live because that's what we originally selected. And we go to the group scene, and now we can see two Prism Live studios and the Polypop. So this is how you can help guests troubleshoot within VDO.Ninja, right? You can actually select them, and you can do the same for the audio settings as well. You can actually help the guest select the actual input and output devices. So that's really, really handy for when you're in those type of situations. Great. So that's really an overview of um, VDO.Ninja and its control panel. Right, now you can also look at scene stats. So if you click on that, it does show you some information. We aren't using the VDO.Ninja scenes right now, so it's not going to really give you anything. But there's a lot of functionality that Steve has actually added to the application, right? So that's actually great. What else can we go through? So I think that's as far as this tutorial goes. Is I did want to give you an overview of VDO.Ninja, which I have, and the way it actually works with OBS. Now, let's just go back and change this video source for the guest. I'm going to go to video settings, and I'm going to change him back to the OBS virtual camera, and I'm going to request. And when I do that, go back to guest one, and there we go. It's got a request in, and now that camera has actually changed. And as you can see, in my group scene in OBS, it has actually changed back to my OBS virtual camera. Great, okay. Now I did want to go through a couple of other points right here, And I wanted to talk a little bit about the other helper tools and the other tools that Steve is actually building along with this ecosystem. And I really do call it an ecosystem because that's really what Steve has built, right? So let's just talk about a few other things. And this is really evident in his docs.vdo.ninja, right? So if you have a look at his documentation right now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so we can take a closer look. And he's got a lot of documentation over here. You can read about getting started with VDO.Ninja. He's got all the information right here and some of the stuff that I showed you in our tutorial right now. He talks about what stream IDs are and the way to manipulate stream IDs, right? So on and so forth. But what I wanted to just actually go ahead and show you guys, he's got several guides over here on VDO.Ninja. This is very, very in-depth, so just a bit of light reading for you before you know, in the nighttime when you're sleeping, but that's fine. But what I want to do is I want to go through Steve's helper apps and tools. Now, when I drop this down, Steve has got several applications that he has built along with VDO.Ninja. Now, of course, this is a lot of applications. I suggest that you check it out when you get the chance. But I'm just going to go through a couple of them that I know. I know the electron capture is excellent. It basically captures a browser source, especially when maybe your OBS, your computer has less resources. So browser sources take up a lot of resources in OBS, as we can see over here. So if you want to just capture the screen, this is excellent for capturing electron capture. Social Stream Ninja is just another excellent application. Um, which allows you to bring in chats from various platforms into your OBS, for example, or any other platform for that matter, right? So Social Stream Ninja, do check it out. It's excellent. It's great. Meshcast is really a server that Steve has actually deployed that allows folks to connect into a VDO.Ninja room, but not necessarily with the high spec system. So if they've got a lower spec system, you can actually connect, and what that actually happens is your video goes through a Meshcast server, so your video doesn't have to, your system or your computer doesn't have to work that hard to actually allow for video to reach your OBS or whatever you're really using. Caption Ninja is a captioning service. Raspberry Ninja is one of my favorites, to be honest. Raspberry Ninja is really allows you to build a basic version of VDO.Ninja on a Raspberry Pi or a Jetson Nano computer. So this is really handy. I use it very often when I want remote cameras. You can do this. They're very, very handy and it's great quality. So I really suggest that you check out Raspberry Ninja. I'm going to close off Social Stream and so on and so forth. There's a Mixer app. This is extremely handy as well. The Mixer app really allows for mixing and creating several different types of views using VDO.Ninja. This actually helps saving resources as well. So I really recommend having a look at the Mixer app. It is really, really helpful. Okay. And we've got a speed test, we've got the whip and web tooling. Whip and web are new sort of protocols that are used for WebRTC. So the challenge of WebRTC really is that there's no standardized protocol, but whip and web are actually trying to standardize things. So that's actually extremely helpful and very smart to actually build that in. There are mobile apps as well. He's got an Android and iOS app that you can actually have a look, and so on and so forth. So look guys, I really recommend that you have a look at the docs.vdo.ninja, and feel free to ask me questions about VDO.Ninja, my experience with it. Please feel free to ask me questions in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to call it the end of the video. So thank you, and it's always great making these videos for you.